My mindset and my approach to life drastically changed after my first real job. A lot of people will tell you to work these retail 9-to-5 jobs for the experience. I only half agree because what they're talking about and what I'm about to talk about are two completely different things. So my very first job, I worked at a Safeway at the deli department when I was 19. I've done a few things before, but this was my first official job, and I'll never forget it. At the time, I was taking college classes, and this was during the summer, right? And because I had classes in the morning, I had to take the worst time slot possible because I went to class at 10 a.m. and I had class at 12 p.m. So I ended up working from 3 p.m. till 11 p.m. By far the worst hours you can possibly work. Like, I've done 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I've done 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. but this was dead in the middle of the day. And I remember my first day, I pull up to the Safeway, and it was more so on the outskirts of town, and it was a little bit ghetto, a lot of homeless. And I walk in, I go to customer service. The guy handed me my apron and my cap. He showed me to my locker and gave me my codes. This is where you clock in, this is where you clock out. When you take lunch, make sure you clock out and clock back in right at 30 minutes and not a minute over. He showed me over to my department and said, "Have fun," as he took off his cap and walked away. It was pretty obvious that he didn't really care about me and he couldn't wait to go on break. And there was 4 people working at the time. One middle-aged white woman on her phone, one old Asian lady that was old enough to be my mom, a guy that was around 6'2", 6'3", had a grumpy look on his face, 40-year-old Asian man, and then there was another guy in his late 20s looking like he was about to leave shift. So I walk over to the middle-aged white woman on her phone. I introduced myself. I was like, "Hey, I'm Derek. This is my first day. Nice to meet you." And then I remember she looks at me, doesn't say a word, and then she points me over to the guy in his late 20s. And then I'm like, okay. So I walk over to him to introduce myself, and he goes, "Okay, here's the ingredients. There's the bread, there's the cold food, there's the cutting machine for the meat. We take our breaks in that room over there. Any questions?" And in my head, I'm thinking, how about something I should know other than what I can already see with my fucking eyes? Like, oh wow, those are the ingredients? Like, that's the bread? Really? I thought that was silverware. Like, what the fuck? And I remember I was like, can you tell me like the recipes for the sandwich? Like, what's the normal routine when I clock in? You know, just tell me something. Like, just tell me something useful. And the guy goes, yeah, I memorized most of them, but just start helping customers. And just my luck, as he said that, a lady walked up to the counter. And I've learned absolutely nothing at this point. It's been less than 10 minutes, like this was not a training day. It was equivalent to grabbing a random customer, putting an apron and a cap on them and say, "Start working." He said, yeah, go help her and I'll just watch you. So I go up to the lady and I go, "Hey, how's your day going? How can I help you?" And I'll never forget this. She asked for a turkey bacon avocado sandwich. So I pull out the bread that says Dutch Crunch because I assumed that's what it was. I looked over at him and he nods his head. And I have some idea how to make it just because I've ordered the exact same thing before. It's mayonnaise on one side, avocado on the other. I grabbed some turkey, I grabbed some bacon, and I wasn't sure if I was putting too much or too little. So I looked back over at him for confirmation to see if I was putting the right amount. And this fucking guy was gone. The guy straight up left. And then I looked back at the lady and she had this look on her face like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And she was right. Like, I'm by myself at this point and it's been less than 10 minutes since I started working. And then I start getting flustered, and then the old Asian lady sees me and walks towards me. And I was thinking to myself, okay, what do I do next? Alright, I gotta put the sandwich in the oven. But then I thought, oh shit, I forgot the lettuce and tomatoes. You gotta have lettuce and tomatoes, right? So I put the lettuce and tomatoes on, and keep in mind, I'm like slightly panicking because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And a line is starting to form. I'm about to put the sandwich in the toaster oven, and then the lady goes, "Stop, you put the lettuce and tomatoes on." Now in this moment, I would've been okay getting hit by a bus, I'm not gonna lie. I closed my eyes for a second and wanted to slam my head against the oven myself. Like, of course you put the tomatoes and lettuce on afterwards. So regretfully, with shame, I take the tomatoes, I take the lettuce off, and then I put the sandwich in the oven, and then the Asian lady set the time for me. It was the most awkward 45 seconds. I remember standing there thinking to myself, wow, this is gonna be the next 2 months of my life. Because I was only gonna work for the rest of the summer. When it was done, I wrapped the sandwich, gave it to the lady. She walked away with this slightly condescending look on her face. I mean, well deserved. I was about to toast lettuce and tomatoes. But I was like, wow, that couldn't have gone worse for my first interaction. The rest of the day went pretty okay. I mean, after messing up the first one, I'm like, alright, I don't really care anymore. And I remember I had to learn everything from all the sandwich recipes, how to use the cutting machine for the meats, how to cook the rotisserie chicken, how to make all the cold foods, the cleaning process at the end of the shift, which was really nasty, by the way. So all the food at the end of the day, they'll pour it in this big bucket, and then they'll throw all of that food in this huge bin that was stacked on top of 2 trash bins, and then you had to dump the food with all the other food they've dumped from the past week. and then you had to get on top of that to step on all the food to make sure it was all pressed down and it doesn't spill over. Like it was nasty. The other workers were definitely finessing me a little bit. Like this young kid that doesn't know anything, like let's make him do everything. I mean, I respect it. And I think I made like $12 or $13 an hour. It wasn't the hardest thing on earth, but it was pretty tedious and pretty nasty, I'm not gonna lie. I was so glad when I got home. I was sweaty, tired, sore, and I smelled like shit. When I got home, I took a shower, and as I was taking that shower, I realized I got class in the morning, and I didn't study my notes or anything. And that's when I realized like, oh, this is gonna be a long summer. And something that I learned from doing all these retail or customer service jobs, bro, I swear, some customers, they like to be difficult for no reason, especially old people that see young people working. Like they'll be difficult for no reason. And I think that's because a lot of people are bored. Like there was this one moment where this one customer, he wanted me to cut the meat in such a specific way where he was like a little bit thinner, a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner, a little bit thicker. I'm like, to the point where I was like, bro, there is no in between the two meats that I just cut. There's no thinner or thicker. Like this is it. I'm like out here cutting 1/100th of a centimeter of a fucking slice of meat. And there was this one customer, this one chick, where I guess she was unhappy with the way her sandwich was made. And she was just going off on the supervisor, the guy that was working there, the tall, grumpy, 40-year-old Asian dude. And he wasn't having it either. And I remember as he turned around, he like whispered fucking bitch underneath his breath. And she heard it. And she ended up taking the bag of sandwich, the sandwich in the brown paper bag, and then she threw it, and then it hit him in the back of the head to where his cap fell off. By the way, objects hitting people's heads will never not be funny. And I remember he was about to pick it up and throw it back at her, but then like the other coworkers stopped him. And I remember standing there watching this interaction, about to start shift, thinking to myself like, can I leave? Like I really don't want to be here right now. But this was what the environment was like. Like there'd be druggies and crackheads walking in all the time asking to use the bathroom, for a water cup, trying to get free food, like all types of shit. And I wasn't used to any of this. Again, this was my first real job. It was a rough 2 months. There were days where I wanted to hop over that counter and knock out every single customer, and some of my coworkers as well as the entire store. Like just straight up GTA style. I would fantasize about that while I was at work. And I'm sure if you've done any retail, you've had those days as well. And during my final week of work, there was one day in particular where there was only 2 people working. It was me and the old Asian lady. Her name was Jenny. She spoke limited English, but I could speak to her in Cantonese because she was Chinese as well. But anyways, this one day we were the only ones working at the moment because the other 2 people went to mess around, they took a long break or lunch or whatever. It was 7 p.m. on a Friday, and I was getting phone calls after phone calls of orders. And I'm like, why are you mass ordering sandwiches from a Safeway over your phone? It's a Friday night, lady, go cook for your family. And there was a massive line building from like guys that got off work. Some guy wanted like 2.25 pounds of 1/4 centimeter sliced ham. Some other guy wanted potato wedges and coleslaw, and we were out of it. Some other homeless dude was asking for a water cup and where's the bathrooms at so he could probably do meth. I got 4 whole chickens that I gotta take out the oven. Some guy was asking for sliced meatballs. And I'm like, why would you slice meatballs? And I remember I just put the food in the bag and I said, just take it. It's on the house for free. And the guy was like, oh, no, man, you don't have to do that. I'll pay for it. And I'm like, no. I'm not doing that for you. I'm trying to get you out the way because I got shit to do. Like, I'm trying to cut this line and do all these other things. I remember I disconnected the phone when no one was looking because I wasn't trying to take any more orders. And I'm like getting agitated because I'm realizing those other 2 coworkers, they left at this time on purpose. This was peak hours and they knew that Friday 7 p.m. was where all the hippie stoners that live for the weekends come in. All the drunk people, all the crackheads, all the homeless, all the high school students, the college students going to the beach, the dads, the moms getting off work, everyone. And it's just me and this poor old Chinese lady named Jenny in her late 40s that barely speaks a lick of English. And I could go on and on about the experiences I've had here even though it was just 2 months, but I'll get to the deep talk and the main point of where I'm going because I'm sure that's what you want to hear. So during my final week, I didn't really tell anyone that I was gonna quit because, I mean, no one is gonna hire you if you say you're just doing it for 2 months. But I told Jenny that this was gonna be my last day. I had 2 more shifts, but I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing this. Not after that day. And I remember I didn't tell my mom either. I just hung out with my friends. And that was the most fun part of the summer, just hanging out with my friends instead of going to work. And she was really reluctant to see me go. Like, she was kind of sad because the other coworkers weren't really her friends. They were negative. She didn't speak English well. And it was a depressing environment. And I was kind of this like young, nice kid that spoke to her in Chinese. And I'm sure I reminded her of her son or nephews in a lot of ways. because that's how she spoke to me. And being in her position, I imagine that's how she saw me. And she was sad. She was like, maybe you could just work these certain days. But I was like, sorry, I gotta go back to college. And I'll never forget this interaction, but she said to me, make sure to study hard and to be successful. And I plan on keeping my word. But I asked her what made her work here for so long, because the environment is depressing. No one cares about each other, everyone just wants to get in, get out. The customers are almost all negative. Maybe once in a blue moon, you'll get a nice customer that'll uplift you a little bit. But overall, it was a depressing and tedious 8-hour job. Like, there's no purpose, there's no meaning, it's just like waiting to die. The pay wasn't good at all, it was just minimum wage. And this is the experience for most average Americans, most of the population. Not even just what I got from coworkers, but from being around the customers, your everyday Americans. It's not even what I was doing necessarily, because anything can be fun. Even the shittiest of jobs, right? With the right people, the right energy, the right environment, even that can be fun. Let's say you were flipping burgers for a summer job for some extra cash, right? Replace those coworkers with your closest friends and it would be the highlight of your summer. It would go from a miserable experience of, oh, I'm just trying to get through the shift, to a pretty fun experience, because we would be joking around, making it fun, talking about whatever, working, helping each other out, having each other's back, not taking off during rush hour or hiding in the bathroom. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I did this a lot during my last hour of the shift, but with the right people, it would be fun. Actually, my last job, I actually did work with some of my friends, and it was the most fun I had. We still did our assignments, so it's not even the job itself that sucks necessarily. With the right people, right energy, any job you work can be enjoyable. What it is the 9-to-5 depressing negative energy of this is all life is ever gonna be, routine, mundane, boring, angry, negative, just the bad environment that ripples through most 9-to-5 jobs. And again, it's not the 9-to-5 job specifically. If you enjoy going to work, you enjoy the people, you enjoy working together, and you're making money, providing for your family, and you're good in life, you win. Like, you've won. I'm envious of you. Like, you're beating out the millionaire, doing drugs and partying every weekend, crashing out, looking for some meaning or feeling in their life. So it's not the 9-to-5 job specifically, if you enjoy going to work. And some people think, oh, it's work, you're not supposed to enjoy it. And I think this is completely wrong, and I have empathy if you feel that way. But she said to me, this is the only thing I can do, which I strongly disagreed with. It was what she started with and got comfortable with. Because the next job I worked after this was at a Hawaiian barbecue as a cashier. And that shit was so easy. I mean, you just stand there, take orders, box food, and it was for like $16.50 an hour. It was a lot more pay with a lot less work. It was probably 1/10 of the work at that Safeway, which included being a cashier anyways. But to me, it was sad because I realized it was more so that she couldn't see herself doing anything else. Not that she actually couldn't. She wasn't actually trapped to just doing that. She put that mental prison in her mind. And this probably goes for so many people. It's so crazy to me, the limiting mindset that people have, and I really want to drive this point across. Now, was she gonna go quit and become a brain surgeon? No, probably not. But that mindset will keep you enslaved to a discontent life until you die. Like, you have to genuinely see yourself being able to do whatever it is you want to do. Like, genuinely imagine yourself doing that thing. Like, I don't know if that's manifestation or whatever, but that visualization is so important. I actually remember one of my friends, she was talking about this other girl that was older than her, that was in med school, about to graduate and become a doctor. And she said, wow, it's so crazy. I can't believe someone I know is actually going to be a doctor. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I don't know, just the fact that she's becoming an actual doctor. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it's not impossible. The path is there if you really want to. Like, you get your bachelor's degree, you pass the MCAT, you apply for med school, you do your residency, you get your license. Like, the path is there if that's what you want to do. Obviously, you got to put in the years of work and grind and a bunch of studying, but it's possible. It's not like this thing that's like out of reach from where you are. If you really want it, you can do it. But if something like that seems out of reach and impossible, then think about all the other things that you put limitations on. And what that first job made me realize is how many people put those limitations and subject themselves to doing things that they know they don't want to do, when it's not their only option. And it was very obvious because the highlight of most of these people's days were using their phones during break, scrolling through Instagram as they take a piss. But that energy, those lifeless expressions that I saw not just from workers but customers as well, were a reflection of their lives. And also the mental prisons that they exist in created by themselves. I mean, listen, I was 19, I didn't know anything. I mean, I still don't know a lot of things. I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But one thing I did know is that life is not supposed to be like this. And again, I want to emphasize this point. It wasn't even the job itself, even though it did kind of suck, but it would have been enjoyable with the right people, and this goes for anything. Even jail could be fun if you were with your friends. I know that might sound crazy, but I genuinely believe that to be true. Think about all the highlights of your life. What were the most fun moments, the most memorable moments? It was with the right people. It was the energy, it was the atmosphere, not what you were doing. And it was the energy and lifeless environment created by the people who have subjected themselves to their own mental prisons. And it was very apparent, like just tired all the time. And what I come to understand as I get older, whether you work all day or do nothing all day, you're still going to be tired. So you might as well do everything you can. And I think about that final interaction with her a lot because I think it's representative of a lot of people. But also a reminder to me to never put myself in a mental prison, because that's not how I want to live. I'm never gonna stop being excited for the future because I refuse to put limitations on myself. I'm never gonna just live to die. Remember, we don't live forever and we don't internalize this enough. And again, it's not the fact that it was a 9 to 5. I want to emphasize that point. There's plenty of people that wake up happy to go to work. It's a good work environment. They enjoy the people they work with. They feel fulfilled and purposeful. Like those people, they won in life. They beat the system. Don't settle for that mental prison. It's not worth it and you'll regret it. And if you feel like you're in that prison, never stop fighting to get out of it. Never stop believing that things can get better. Never subject yourself to thinking this is just how life is supposed to be. And the argument to that would be, oh, it's not that easy. I got bills, kids, etc., etc. All I'm saying is don't stop fighting. Life is not supposed to be this way. Because the second you quit and think this is just how life is, not only have you put yourself in that mental prison, you're also taking that key and throwing it away. And you're locking yourself for good. And I've seen it in every single job that I've done. People that have just given up. You can see it all over their face. They've subjected themselves to their mental prisons. I have countless stories because I love picking people's brains. It's the exact same thing every single time. I'll ask what they really want to do and they'll always light up when they talk about their passions. But then at the end of the conversation, that lit up face goes back down to being that lifeless expression and realization. Again, because of that mental prison that they put themselves in. Keep fighting for that key because it is your life. And that was what I took away from that first job. And any job that I did after that, I wasn't sad, I wasn't down, I wasn't ever depressed because I was working there. Because I always knew that this wasn't going to be it. And you have to have that belief. But that experience really solidified the mindset that I need to constantly have. Because the second you throw that key away, that lifeless expression is what you're going to carry with you every single day. So yeah, don't ever stop fighting. Don't put yourself in that mental prison and keep fighting for that key. Anyways, I think I've gone on long enough. That took me way too long to record. Thank you for listening. I hope you're doing well. I love you. And with that said, make sure you stay true. I'll talk to you real soon. Peace.